All right, this is the last part of mindset, and it's our 10 leadership lessons for an expert house flipper. I'm going to walk you through my 10 principles that really mean a lot and that work good for me and which changed my life. All right, let's start with lesson number 1. Always use common sense. And we use this picture because, look, this guy, I'm okay with the fact that he has pizza, top on and all that. The problem where he didn't use common sense is this is actually a video. So he shouldn't have let anyone video him like this. I would call that not using common sense. And I joke about this, but in house flipping, you'd be surprised when emotions kick in how often we abandon common sense. And it really, everything we're going to teach you when it comes to doing deal analyzation and how to make decisions is all going to be about applying common sense. And common sense seems to be something that you would think we all have. We all like to believe we have common sense, but common sense comes from becoming good at what you're doing, having a lot of information, thinking through multiple scenarios. Now, we've been applying at a very high level in our higher level training. We've been applying like what we call game theory for house flipping, and it means that anytime we have a big decision to make, we look at it from multiple angles and multiple outcomes. And the reason we do that is because the more we consider, the more I would say we make an objective decision. And it starts to weed out some of the emotional aspect of the fact on some of our decision making. So make sure we use common sense. It's our number 1 rule from the 10 rules of how to be an expert house flipper. Let's go to number 2. Take assertive and calculated action. Now, I tell you this because I'm naturally an aggressive person, but however, I happen to be very analytical. So when I was new at this, my analytical side was winning. I didn't know what to do, so I wouldn't take action. It made me really upset, made me unhappy, because I like to take action. But unfortunately, when you are an aggressive person, say you're a driver, you get stuff done, but then you have this intellectual side, what we call the C, which is the analytical side. Unfortunately, if I don't have the information, I can't move forward. So it took me a long time to do my first house. I mean, I literally read books for about 6 to 7 years before I ever ended up doing my first house, and I kind of just fell into my first one, and it was not something that I expected to do, essentially. With that being said, I want you to get really honed in on being the perfect level of assertive. And remember, assertive is not aggressive. Aggressive is being take charge, running people over, not being thoughtful of others. Assertive is actually standing up for yourself and being very clear, being compassionate, but also being very clear and making sure that you go and do stuff. You're not going to sit around for weeks and think about this. You're going to go take little small steps. As we go through the training, I'm going to be giving you a lot of little micro tasks to do, and these micro tasks are meant to get you moving forward. They're meant to have you just keep moving one little step at a time, because every time we take a step, it just helps give us momentum. It helps build confidence. So we want to make sure it's assertive, and then we also want to make sure it's calculated, and that's where the deal analyzer comes in. That's where all the different modules on how to calculate and comp and estimate renovation costs. That's all really important for a reason, because that becomes the calculated part. So we do want to be very strategic when we're doing deals, when we're deciding where to invest our money, whether it's getting into higher level programs, whether it's renovating a house or deciding to wholesale it. We want to think of things. We want to be very calculated. So take some time. Just know that any decision you want to make on your own, it's because it probably won't, it's probably not being well thought out. A lot of times I've seen a pattern in myself when I want to quickly make a decision and not run it by others. It's because I don't want others to kind of challenge me on my decision process. So it's important that I bring others into my life and allow them to look at my deals, look at my decisions. I do that with my coach right now, and if you're in my higher level program like the Mastermind or the Business Mastery, then you should definitely use me as a resource, because I become that person that can help hold you accountable to making good decisions, and which I have someone doing it for me. It's something we need in life, by the way. We always need that, because we want to make sure that we're taking action, but it's calculated, it's well thought out. Just like Mr. Wonderful. You can see he's a very shrewd businessman, and I like him for that. And if you don't make a good decision, then you're dead to me. Just know that, just like Mr. Wonderful. Lesson number 3, only the strong survive. And I don't mean physically strong, but I do mean mentally strong. It will require house flipping or investing or accomplishing any kind of major goal in your life. It's going to require you being persistent and you not giving up. I mean, if we just do a little bit of work and then we give up, you're pretty much going to fail at everything in life, because nothing worth having comes super easy. And if it did, then it wouldn't, what we would make would be very little. The reason we make so much money as house flippers is because it's not that easy. Now the good news is you're in the right place, you're in the right training that's going to teach you exactly how to make it as easy as it can be. But I always make sure I tell people this isn't a get rich quick scheme, right? You're going to have to put some work in. There's going to be some hours, there's going to be some practice, there's going to be some failures, there's going to be getting back up, right? You constantly have to just stay at it. The one thing that I can promise you, and any student who's ever told me, Mike, I'm going to do this until I make it work, has found a way to make it work. And any student who's like, I'm going to take a shot, and if it works, I'll do it. And then my next question would be, how long is that? And they're like, well, I got about 30 days, and how much time are you going to put into it? And I have 10 hours, and so you're going to put 10 hours into house flipping, then you're going to quit if that doesn't work. Is that very realistic, right? That goes back to setting good expectations. That's not a very good expectation, right? I would tell you that you want to work on it as long as it takes. I've had people take, a year to do their first deal. We've had people do it in a couple weeks. But the thing is, the person who's doing a year, aren't they really glad that they didn't quit 6 months in? Because I can tell you the person is doing a year is still a student, and they are still doing a lot of great deals 3 to 4 years later, and they literally are living the life that they want to live. But it did take them a year to do their first deal. And then I have other students that are making $1 million a year in net income, and that student, the first 3 flips they did, they lost money on them. And over like 2 years, and they ended up being a disaster. They didn't give up though, right? They stuck with it. Now here they are about 7, 8 years later, about 25 deals a year, netting about $1 million in income. So again, isn't that person glad that they didn't just give up when they hit a couple bumps in the road? Now again, I hope that you don't hit those kind of bumps in the road, and that's what the purpose of this training is. But there'll be some types of bumps. It might not be losing money, it might not be the big crazy bumps, but it might be getting a contractor who doesn't want to do what he says, and then you have to fire him and hire someone new. Every day we're going to run into challenges, and your ability and how you react to those challenges will determine how successful you are in this business. All right, lesson number 4, just say no and stay focused. I got this concept from a book called The One Thing, Gary Keller, great book. It says that the people who've done the most in life are people who stay very focused in their lane. He uses an example of Michael Phelps and how Michael Phelps didn't play basketball, didn't play baseball. He literally just swam every day. That's all he did. He didn't even hang with friends. His whole life was swimming. And his dedication and his focus to that one thing led him to be the greatest swimmer that might ever exist and we might ever see. And that's really key to what we do in house flipping. House flipping usually falls under the umbrella of real estate investing. And because it's falling under this umbrella, a lot of people think that you could flip houses, you can wholesale, you can rent, you can do lease options, you can do mortgage clauses and subject twos. There's just a million different things you can do in this. You can be a realtor, you can lease things. I mean, honestly, if you're going to be great at anything, really stick to it. So for me, I've made my number one focus flipping houses, managing contractors, raising money, being able to get them done super quick. Because I've made that my focus, however, doing wholesale deals has actually become a very vital part of running a great renovation business, because the wholesale deals make sure that I have inventory to buy houses when the time comes. And because we don't always know when we're going to need our next house, so I'm always buying more than I need. And for me, this is the key to just saying no, because I really want to do many different things because I have a little bit of ADD, so I want to make sure that I'm not jumping into doing all kind of crazy stuff. So right now I literally just focus on flipping houses and teaching people to flip houses and wholesale, because these are my 2 specialties. I know a lot about rentals, but at the end of the day I'm not an expert at that, so I share a lot of ideas with you just so you have a basic understanding. And I actually have a rental coach who's teaching me how to be a better landlord, because I'm not an expert at it. Because for many years, how I became really great at house flipping is I decided not to become an expert at that because it wasn't my lane. I wanted to stay in my lane and become great at one thing. So you got to learn to just say no. And like when you look at her, right, just say no. So obviously you got to say no to drugs, but more importantly, you got to say no to like business opportunities. There's going to be so many people that come at you once you start to make money and say, hey, there's this really cool thing, you should be doing this. There's this really cool thing over here, and oh my God, you should jump into that. You should consider doing this. You could start flipping trillion-dollar houses. And every time I've ever fell into that trap of trying to divide myself, it always worked out really poorly. It talks about in The One Thing that there's no such thing as a multitasking. You're really just dividing your attention and deciding to be not great at many things. Anytime I meet someone at a RIA and they hand me a card and it has like 8 different job descriptions on the card, they're never making any money. I can just tell you that for a fact. I've never met anyone who's like, yeah man, I'm making $1 million a year and I have 8 jobs. Right? When I meet someone's like, I'm a mortgage broker and that's all I do and I'm great at it and I'm making $300K a year, I think to myself, that makes a lot of sense. right? Because they're being great, they're becoming great at that thing. And when I see someone that has 8 jobs, it usually means they don't have the confidence to be great at any one of those jobs. So they just say, hey, let me try 8, maybe 1 or 2 will work out. And often it's, it's not really the high level way of thinking. And I don't judge people who are like that, because that was me in the past, right? I did this many times, and really just giving you insight to some of my own mistakes that I've made, and some of the things that have really sabotaged me and my growth, and that I've learned along the way. Lesson number 5, be confident. So we've been talking about this a lot in the mastermind. When you're confident, you make great decisions, you move forward, you don't procrastinate. Most of the time when we're not able to do something, it's because there's this lack of confidence on whether we think we can do it, or there's just some limiting belief that's holding us back. So I want you to learn to be confident, and you don't have to be confident in everything. You don't have to be a confident dancer or a confident speaker, but I really want you confident around analyzing deals, analyzing repair budgets, talking to sellers, all the things that you need to be confident at in order to be great at this. I want you to take the time to learn and understand these things and practice them. And as you practice them, there's going to, every single time you practice just a little, your confidence level does this. Just takes a little step up. And eventually, you're killing it, right? You're doing a lot of deals, and you're just like, things are just breaking loose for you because your confidence has gotten high. And often when we look back, like later on when we are very successful in doing a lot of houses, and we realize, like for me personally, I'll give you a great example. When I was new, I was afraid to take phone calls. And it's really interesting for me to look back now, because I'm kind of great on the calls, and I've taken my weakness and made it my strength for sure. But man, I literally for like a month just looked at the phones and I'd be like this, like, oh, they don't want to talk to me, and I would make up excuses. And it wasn't until someone held me accountable, a partner at the time, and said, hey man, what are you doing? Why aren't you calling people back? And I would give them some excuses like, well, they left me a message and it seemed like they wanted too much money. So like that was a lack of confidence, honestly. I didn't know what to say, how to say it. I'd never done it. I was very much in a fixed mindset, so I didn't want to fail. I was afraid of speaking and failing, so I didn't. So I want you to start being confident, all right? I want you to take your can'ts and start turning them into cans, right? I can do this. I can do anything, right? And then the next question is how? How do I do it? And when we start thinking of anything, there's anything within reason, right? I'm probably not going to fly to Mars, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to flip a house. It's not that complicated, right? It's a formula like anything else. All right, lesson number 6, always be learning, right? I stole this from Always Be Closing, and I have this belief system that you should always be learning. If you're not learning, you're dying. Tony Robbins, I went to his event like 5 years ago, and one of the things he said, if you're not growing, you're dying. And it's a really powerful statement, because if you're not growing, you're dying. I really believe in that. And if you're not learning, then you're falling behind your competition, because your competition is probably in a place where they're learning and growing. Not all of them, but a lot of them will be, because, and what happens for us, the reason most of us stop learning is we get this fixed mindset, and we get a couple, positive experiences under our belt, and then we start telling ourselves how great we are. And once we think we're really great, then we start giving ourselves this story of why would I want to learn, right? So we want to make sure that you're learning based. I want you reading constantly. I want you to just become passionate about becoming a better person, because see, the better person you are, the better people you attract. And I'm talking about just friends, but if you want great contractors, like I can just tell you, if you have bad contractors, you're a bad leader. I know this is hard to hear, and I can tell you it was hard for me to hear not long ago. And when I heard that, I was like, well, I'm a good leader. What do you mean? And my coach was like, if you're a great leader, you would attract great people. And it was a pretty powerful statement. So I know he's the one that really inspired me to just keep learning and to get out of my head and stop thinking that I'm great and start knowing that I have so much room to improve. So the version of me you'll see today is like, I'm happy that I'm doing everything I'm doing, but I'm constantly saying, hey, let's see if we can tweak this and make it better, make it better, make it better. And that's what it is. You always want to keep learning. You want to constantly grow. Most of my students that do the best start off in some kind of either free training, go to like a slightly paid training, get results, make money, right? And then they get into higher level training, get more results and make money, get into a higher level training than that, and you just keep growing and growing and growing. And our highest level training is really just put together for people that are doing 10 houses a year, 5 houses a year, and they want to grow to like 20 houses a year, and they want to start automating their business. But first, we got to learn how to do your first house if you're new, right? So we got to start here and then keep growing step by step, because as we keep taking it up the ladder, you make more money, right? At the free level, you're not going to make very much, right? You'll be lucky to make anything, to be honest. Mostly the free level is about building confidence and learning and kind of getting some general experience. The next paid level, maybe you make 10 or 20K, but you don't have the ability to keep doing it. The next one is like you start making 100K, 200K a year, and then 500K a year, $1 million a year. All those things start to happen if you keep growing and you constantly keep putting yourself around the people. One of my students the other day said to me, I think I might have joined too high level of a group, and my response to her was, you're in the perfect place because you're an awesome person, you're a high level person, and you will find a way to come up to the level of the people around you. And she'd actually used, she really is not low level in the group, by the way. She just looked at a few people in the group who were doing a little more than everyone else and thought everyone in the group was that way. But the reality is there's a decent amount of people in the group that are anywhere from doing a couple houses a year to doing about 10 or 15 houses a year. So, we'll get that sometimes, but everyone has the same dream. We're all growing and learning together and constantly evolving together. And that's the power of a mastermind. That's why we love it, because it's like so powerful to have all that together. All right, lesson number 7, be kind, not weak. I love this, right? We know that the bear is not weak by any means, but look how he's being kind and not eating that little girl, because I think he probably could. Unless he's planning on eating her for lunch, I don't know. But like, I, for many years in my life, always thought that kindness meant weakness. Because where I grew up, if you were kind and you were soft and you were gentle, people would take advantage of you. And they would see that as weakness. And so I went on many years of my life thinking that that was a real thing, and it really just was a poor thing. It was a project thing. It was a bad neighborhood thing. It really is not very real once you get past the projects. You get into like what I call normal society, where people aren't trying to scam you and take advantage of you. Well, in regular life, people are really mostly amazing. Most of the people I meet are great, and I meet some people that are will take advantage of you, but 99% of the people are awesome. So I've learned, and I've had to make the major change, and I feel like I learned this from my mother, because she's a very kind person, very giving, will give her last dollar to someone who needs it. Just a beautiful person, and every day I work on being more like her and less like my father, who was the one who taught me that kindness meant weakness. He was preparing me to be tough, to survive in a tough area, so he was doing what he thought was best at the time. But my mom has actually taught me a lot about kindness, and kindness is really powerful. When we're teaching and we're helping people and we're trying to grow our business, it's going to require hiring people like contractors and people that work for us to do administrative stuff. Well, it's really important that you're first kind to them, but secondarily then you can hold them accountable. One doesn't mean the other, right? So you want to be kind but not weak, right? And when being kind is good, but don't let people run over you. Don't mistake kindness for weakness, because it's not. The most powerful people are the kindest people, but that doesn't mean they're pushovers. They will stand up for themselves when necessary. They just don't go around and like bully people and take advantage of people. They're really coming from a great place, and if you take advantage of them, they will stand their ground, and that's who you need to become. You have to become the person who will stand their ground, will not allow people to take advantage of you, because there will be people out there. There will be contractors. There will be people who, if you show some kindness, they might try to take a little more than what you tried to give them. And that could result in you being very unhappy and not being satisfied with house flipping. So make sure that you are being kind and you're being an awesome person, but make sure that you're not being weak. All right, number 8, we only got a few left. We're heading towards the end. Thank you for hanging in. I hope you're finding this stuff really valuable. I want you to master verbal self-defense. Okay, there's going to be, we talked about this kindness and weakness thing before, right? There's going to be some people that you're going to need to have higher level conversations with. I've had to learn over the years when contractors try to talk in circles around me, or anyone, because like people in general sometimes will do that. Not everyone's going to communicate with us at a high level. We need to learn to stand for ourselves and do it in the most polite and most kind way. We don't want to be mean about it. We don't want to take it, yell at people. We just want to be assertive and very forward and say, hey, listen, I understand that you feel that way, but listen, this is what we've agreed upon, and it would really mean a lot to me if you could stick to our initial agreement. I understand that like this is more than you thought and all that. That's all great, but I am going to need you to stick to that, because that's the agreement, and that's what I really believe in. I believe in keeping our word. I gave you my word that I would pay you X amount of dollars for doing this work. I'm going to need you to keep your word that you would do the work for that price. And so we can be nice about it, but we don't want to get emotional. We don't want to get upset and yell. And it's really never productive to do that. But mastering verbal self-defense, it's learning to be calm. I mean, if I give you the number one rule of verbal self-defense is when people yell at you and get crazy, it's your job to stay here. Stay very calm and collective, and don't allow them to suck you into this elevated argument, because most of the time a very manipulative move that people will use on you is they will yell at you and try to bring you up to their level levels so you can have a really unproductive conversation, because the reality is the conversation, they agreed to this and now they're breaking their promise, and what they want you to do is come up here and be like, yell at them so they can use that as a reason to break their promise and make them feel better about the fact they're not keeping their honor. So it's very important we stay here and we bring them back down to our level, and we stay calm, kind, and very assertive with them. And if you're able to do that and you're able to just start to master verbal self-defense and really be able to communicate with people, you're going to find that you get a lot better results. All right, number 9, adapt to your surroundings. Pretty important, right? We have some weird surroundings when we're flipping houses. Sometimes we're going into rough neighborhoods, sometimes we're going into great neighborhoods, but when we're in those rough neighborhoods and if you don't fit in there, make sure you adapt to your surrounding and make sure that you're being careful, because sometimes it's necessary for you to be careful. One of my students told me they actually get an inspector to go with them to bad neighborhoods to inspect houses and pay them money. I love that idea, because I think as a woman or a female going into a dark house and dangerous neighborhood, I'm not saying they can't do it, but why be risky, right? We do all this so that we can enjoy and have a great life. So let's make sure that we're being smart, we're being kind, and we're adapting to our surroundings. Another version of why I say adapt to your surroundings, this is much deeper than just, knowing how to go through a bad neighborhood. This is really, your surroundings often might be that you're working with contractors that always do this, and now you have to adapt. Right? It might be that I'm not great on the phone, but I know if I don't become great on the phone that I'm never going to be really great at real estate. So what did I do? I adapted to my surrounding and I had to start getting better on the phone. That was me adapting, right? I'm not great with money, right? We grew up poor. We kind of hated money. I always make the joke that my family and I hate money, and that's because we grew up poor and we almost looked at people with money as maybe just not really ethical, I guess. I don't know what kind of crazy thing you think when you're poor. So it took me many years of understanding money, learning QuickBooks, learning financial reports to really become a good business person, because I had to unwire my whole train of thought that made me believe that being poor was cool, right? And making money and blowing it was all acceptable, but none of it is actually. When you start becoming really wise with money and you become great with money, poorness goes away. Right? Managing your money correctly will absolutely help you live life in a very different way. All right, number 10 and the last one, and this is going to be my last lesson for you. Survival is about making the most of a bad situation. Now, I've had many times where I've had to take and make lemonade out of lemons. I flipped a house and lost money or lost $10,000 instead of making the 30 I thought I was going to make. That is clearly lemons, right? It's really sour. It's hard to take. The best way to take something like that and make the most out of it is to continue on and be very clear and learn lessons from it, and then put some controls in place to make sure you don't do it again. All right, if a contractor just runs off on you or does something makes you really unhappy, then again, this is about really taking and finding making the best of the situation and using it and learning from it. What did I contribute to the problem? Right? Obviously, we're not taking the accountability away from the contractor and the fact that they left, but we do always want to look at ourselves and what we could have done differently and how we can improve. So maybe next time we work with them, we have a better outcome. Not that particular person, but another person. So life is really just about this, right? I grew up poor. I was able to make lemonade out of the lemons. I've seen so many people that are in a situation that's not very conducive for flipping houses, and they've just figured it out, right? They've taken the lemons and then threw some sugar and water and made some really awesome lemonade. And that's just the key, right? Make the most out of every situation. You lose money, you get a bad deal, you have a contractor rips you off, a partner rips you off, put that in the past, and then just really take notes of everything that you learned from it. That way you're actually getting something, right? Maybe you lost 10K, and maybe what you got instead of profit was an education, a 10K education. But if you take time to make it an education, then you get the most out of it. So that's everything for this mindset. I hope you guys love this. This mindset is just a really big passion for me. I consistently read books on mindset, and I constantly am growing my mindset around everything I do. And I can tell you that for many years I made great money, and it wasn't until I started to really work on emotional intelligence and mindset that my income would double and triple and just start to do things I never thought were possible. Because without a great, really strong mindset, it's impossible to run the amazing business that you want. So promise me, I want you to promise me, look at me right here, and promise me you're going to do this work, that the homework we put in, the quizzes, you're going to take them, you're going to pass them, because the work that you're going to do through these modules, I don't care what level you're at, you're going to find value in them. We don't have any basic, really easy stuff. This is truly accountability for people that want to be great. So if there's something you don't know, like ARV or something, and I didn't teach it, then go on Google and just Google it. I didn't put anything in this training that was simple. I really want to make sure you were learning the high level concepts that are going to get you results and get you making money. So if you're flipping 10, 20 houses a year, there's going to be value here for you. If you flip none, this is going to get you going. So like I said, make me a promise, and I'll make you a promise to continually to keep delivering high level information. If you make me a promise, you're going to do the work.